Now that we have our PCB board, we're going to create some components on our board. So click on Create Components button. And as you did with the PC board, choose the upper left hand corner of the component, click, and drag to create a component. Double click on your component and it'll bring up a properties window. And this, as with PCB, is where you set the geometry, heat, and the materials property for each of the layers in your PCB board system. Now if you take a look in the cross-section of view, you can see that there are several layers that I can choose, and depending on what I choose, I can set the relative properties. Now this arrow here is basically the convection property, because I've chosen to include the convection effect in my analysis settings. So I can set the H value here, or I can choose the component, the board interface, the PCB vias, or the PCB board itself to give it the designated properties. And if we go back to the components, as you can see, there's a cold plate and a detail option here. If I click on detail, it'll actually show me the cavity information of the component. Now if I hit the cavity swap button, as you can see, the cavity configuration will invert itself, and you will notice that now there's a new layer called a component encapsulant, and this you can also set the height and the materials property for it as well. So let's go back to the component. I'm going to uncheck detail. Now the cold plate option is only there when you actually have a cold plate on top of your component. Currently we do not, so I will uncheck that. And once we cover the cold plate, I will show you how that works. So let's hit apply, OK, and we're done. Now that we have our first component, we can either choose to keep creating more component with the click and drag method, or you can actually choose the previously created components and copy and paste them like this. Now you can move them around, and you can also adjust the size by either dragging on it or by manually entering the value. Now that we have several components on our board, let's move on to the cold plate and the conduction bar.